Hey guys, it's Mr. Gruddy. Today we're going to go over our spheres quiz. You're going to do your corrections like what we've been doing. Remember, as we go through this, you're only correcting your missed work. The first time you watch the video, you're watching it without writing anything down, looking for your mistakes. You're going to show all your work in the left column, doing it correctly. Please make sure you have a specific explanation in the right column. Remember, this is important. Your explanation should be at least 2 sentences. So here's an example. It should say, what I did incorrectly the first time was, and you say what you did incorrectly. Then the second sentence should say, to fix my mistake, and then what you did differently the second time to fix your mistake. So on the right column, it has to have 2 sentences. If you don't have that, then when I check it, I'm not going to okay it, and you're going to have to fix your work. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So question number 1 says, you play volleyball in gym class. The volleyball is a sphere. The diameter of the volleyball is 21 4/10 centimeters. What is the volume of the volleyball? So some important features in this question. First of all, I gave you the diameter of 21 4/10 centimeters. The question was asking for the volume, so we're just using the volume formula. Before we can start with that, though, we needed to change the diameter into the radius. Remember, the diameter is all the way across our circle, or our base, and we wanted the radius just halfway across. So your first step should have been to take 21 4/10 and divide by 2, split that in half to get the radius, which leaves you with 10 7/10. So that number is what we should have used into our formula. From there, we're just plugging it in. Remember, we know that the volume of a sphere is equal to 4/3 times pi, which we use 3 14/100ths, times the radius cubed, which for us was 10 7/10. And again, we're going to cube that to get our final answer. When we work this out, we end up with a total of 5,128 and 84/100ths centimeters cubed. Remember, when we're finding volume, our label is always something cubed. So this one should have been centimeters cubed for our volleyball. All right, let's go on to question number 2. If you've missed question 2, it says, kickball is a popular and fun game to play. I know I love kickball. Who doesn't love kickball, really? A kickball is a sphere. The volume of a kickball is 1,203 and 65/100ths inches cubed. What's the radius of the kickball? So again, let's check what I gave you. So I told you what the volume was. I told you the volume of the kickball is 1,203 and 65/100ths inches cubed. I wanted you to find the radius. So this one's a little bit different. We still use the same formula, only we're plugging in what they gave us. So normally, we would say V equals, and then go from there, but we already know what V equals. We know from what they've told us that the volume is 1,203 and 65/100ths, so that goes where the volume is. We know that 4/3 is still 4/3, that doesn't change. We know that pi is still pi, that doesn't change, okay? Now, they want us to find the radius, so that means our radius is missing. So again, that's radius cubed. For this problem, we were just working through and figuring out what the radius was. So as we solve this just like a normal equation, our first step should have been to combine our like terms, or our constants, on the right side. So we should have multiplied 4/3 times 3 14/100ths, and that would have given us 4 19/100ths, and we still have r cubed over here. And on the left side, we still have 1,203 and 65/100ths on that side. Okay? So now, again, we're trying to get r by itself, so our next step here would be to move our 4 19/100ths to the left. We know if numbers are next to each other, like what we see, 4 19ths is next to r cubed, that's a coefficient, and we're dividing to undo that or to get rid of it and move it to the other side. So we're going to divide both sides by 4 19/100ths, which eliminates our 4 19/100ths from the right side. And we're going to divide the left side by 4 19/100ths. When we divide by 4 19/100ths, that would have left you with 287 and 27/100ths. And on the right side, all we're left with is r cubed. Now remember, this is r cubed, this is an r, so we are not finished. We know that the inverse of cubing a number is cube rooting the number. So we know that our final step here was to cube root 287 and 27/100ths. So we had to cube root 287, 27/100ths, and that's going to give us r. Now when you cube root this and round it, it gives us 6 and 6/10 inches. Now remember, this is just the radius, so it's not inches cubed, it's just inches. So our final answer should have been 6 and 6/10 inches for number 2. All right, guys, let's look at number 3. It says you and a friend go to miniature golfing. A golf ball is a sphere. The circumference of the golf ball is 5 and 28 inches. Determine the volume of the golf ball. So again, let's pick out the important information. I have given you what the circumference of the sphere was. It was 5 and 28 hundredths inches. We needed to determine the volume of the golf ball. Okay? So there's a little bit more to this. Remember, we needed to know the circumference formula in order to find the radius. Then we can use the radius in our formula for volume. So we know that the formula for circumference is simply C equals 2 times pi times the radius. Okay? So we already knew the circumference. We knew the circumference was 5 and 28 inches, so we're going to substitute that in for C. But we still have 2 times pi, and I'm going to go ahead and change that to 3 and 14 hundredths, times the radius. So again, we're just working through this, trying to figure out what the radius is. So as we start, we want to combine 2 times 3 and 14 hundredths, which leaves us with 6 and 28 hundredths, R, on the right side. And we still haven't messed with our 5 and 28 hundredths on the left side. We know again from solving equations, our practice we've done before, that if we have 6 and 28 hundredths next to R, that's multiplication. We need to divide both sides by 6 and 28 hundredths in order to eliminate it from the right side. When you do this, we end up with R only on the right side, which is good. That's what we want. And we figure out that the radius is actually 84 hundredths. Now, we're not finished. We're going to use this amount to go back and find what the volume is. So I'm going to draw a little arrow over here, and we're going to use this amount back up here in our other formula. So now we're going back to our volume formula because we wanted to find the volume. So we know that the volume equals 4/3 times 3 and 14 hundredths times the radius cubed, and we already found the radius down here. We know the radius is 84 hundredths. So we're going to cube that and be ready to go. So from here it's just multiplication. 4/3 times 3 and 14 hundredths times 84 hundredths cubed. When you type that into our calculator, we end up with the volume equals 2 and 48 hundredths inches cubed. Again, since it's volume, our label should be something cubed. And that is the volume of our golf ball. Okay, guys, last question of our quiz said, you decide to try out for the school basketball team. So next year, high school, maybe you're going to try out. Basketball is a sphere, as you guys know. The sphere, the basketball, has a volume, so I gave you the volume, of 4,846 and 59 hundredths centimeters cubed. This one's a little different. I'm asking you, what's the diameter? So again, we have some work to do. I've started out by giving you the volume, so we're just plugging it into our formula. Remember, the formula usually starts out volume equals 4/3, and we go on from there. But we already know the volume, so we can go ahead and plug that right in. We know the volume is 4,846 and 59 centimeters cubed. We know that's going to equal 4/3 times pi, so 3 and 14 hundredths, times the radius cubed. Now you might have noticed I asked you for the diameter. Well, our formula only has the radius, so we're going to have to do a little bit of extra work at the end, and hopefully you caught that. So as we start to work this out, remember I'm starting by multiplying 4/3 times 3 and 14 hundredths, so that gives me 4 and 19 hundredths times our cubed still, haven't done anything there. We know on the left side we have 4,846 and 59 hundredths still left over. As we've done in previous problems, we know that our 4 and 19 hundredths is being multiplied by r cubed, so the inverse of multiplication is division, and we're going to divide 4 and 19 hundredths on both sides. That's going to eliminate it from our right side. So the only number, or the only thing I have on the right side is this variable r cubed. So that kind of gives us a hint what we're going to do later with that cube. We know when I divide, we should have gotten 1,156 and 7/10. So now we're at this place. Again, this is just r cubed. We know that the inverse of cubing a number is cube rooting a number. So our final step here to get the radius should have been to cube root 1,000 1,156 and 7/10. So that's what we're going to do. 1,156 and 7/10 is getting cube rooted. That's going to give us what r equals. When you cube root that amount, it rounds to 10 and 5/10, and that is our radius. So we're getting closer, but remember that the problem asks us for the diameter. So we know that from here we still have to take our radius, because we know that diameter equals radius times 2, because diameter is all the way across. So you should have had 10 and 5/10. Then we needed to multiply that times 2 to get our diameter. And what that leaves us with is our diameter is 21 centimeters. Again, since it's a diameter, we leave it as just centimeters, not centimeters cubed. Okay? You have finished up your corrections. Great job, guys.